Hello and welcome to Webinar Wednesday that we are finally doing on a Wednesday and not on a Thursday. Welcome everyone. Today we've got quite a few guests with us and we're going to be talking about, we're going to share tips and advice for smoother sourcing from India. So, hi Mark, Kevin, how's it going?
Good.
Hello, Megla. We're very well, thank you.
Awesome. So let's also introduce our guests. We've got Kumud from Sabsource and we've got Rajat and Ajit from Panoramic Sourcing. Hanoz was supposed to join us from Sabsource, but he has something urgent to do, so he might drop by later. How are you guys doing? Rajat, Ajit, Kumud, good to see you.
I know it's been long now, but we're all missing the trip.
Yeah, we would have been together in India.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to change. Winters are coming in.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's definitely hope so.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're going to start. We have a few issues that we want to talk about, and these are basically questions that we've seen in the group, or these are issues that we've seen people have when they are sourcing from India. So we're going to try and address those common issues. And Kumud, Ajit, and Rajat, they are of course very experienced in sourcing because they are sourcing agents, and they've worked with many people in our group as well. So first of all, why don't you guys introduce yourself and tell us about your companies, your background, and what you really specialize in. So Kumud, do you want to start first?
Yeah, okay. I have been sourcing products from India for almost 20 years now. And a lot of hard goods and textile and all types of products, the metal products. So basically, I specialize in the wood and the metal products to be sourced out of India, whether it's from Muradabad zone or Jodhpur or Jaipur. So I basically help the buyer source their product from the region where it should be sourced from. And knowing all the vendors in past 19 to 20 years of working, I know how to make the product viable for production. So if any kind of sourcing comes, I would actually go and work with the vendor on the background and give the correct negotiated price to the buyer. So that's how I help the vendors, the buyers to source.
Okay, great. Rajat and Ajit, do you want to start?
Yeah, me and Rajat, we are Panoramic Sourcing. We have started 3 years back our company together. We are partner in Panoramic Sourcing, and we have 20 plus years of experience in sourcing different products out of India. We work with vendors at the root level, at the grassroots levels. We work with vendors, and we work for many products. Many products means bags, leather. We are very much specialized in leather, PU bags out of India, PU things, and then metal and wood and garments also. Earlier, we were working with a lot of retailers across the globe and lot of retail chains that we used to work with. Now, we also help Amazon buyers or small quantity buyers keeping their needs of how to reduce the product cost plus the shipping cost and storage cost, which is a very core area and concerned area for any buyer of Amazon sellers. Amazon seller buyer has the core thing that the issue that comes to their mind in shipping and storage cost. So we go for all the three things together: product cost, shipping cost, and storage cost. We work on these things together to help the buyers to source the product out of India.
Right, yeah. And of course, you are in your very new office today that you just inaugurated on Diwali. And that's why there is, I think, a lot of echo when you're speaking, because it's probably a new office with not a lot of furniture.
You need an acoustic office, Rajat.
Yeah, this is our new office, and during the lockdown period in India, we used to come here and to build our new office. So we have the expertise now in constructing a new building also.
Right. Yeah, cool. So, guys, let's see who's watching with us. Mike Sharma is here. Hi, Mike.
Hello,
Good to see
Mike.
you.
Hi.
And I see Mike has this elephant
Elephant.
as his profile photo. Do you remember this elephant outside of Delhi Fair?
That was our meeting. That was our
Yeah.
meeting spot.
Yes.
I'll see you back at the elephant.
Yeah, Akshit Agarwal is here as well. Cool. So, guys watching, tell us where you're watching from. I know it's pretty early or late in the US, but tell us where you're watching from. Jackie. Hi, Jackie. Good
Hello,
to see
Jackie.
you.
We know where Jackie is. Jackie's in Melbourne.
Yeah. And yeah, also if you can give a like and share this post as well so that other people can also watch it. And also I've seen Debbie Parsons. You've maybe by mistake you've clicked on the angry emoji. Why are you angry, Debbie? We're nice people. Don't be angry.
We'll be
Israel.
nice, to be honest.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So let's get started. We have a few different topics that we're going to be talking about, and so we're talking about how to finding suppliers. We're also going to be talking about inspection services, sourcing agents, and how to communicate with your suppliers, NNN, NDAs, and samples as well. But definitely, guys, you need to post your questions in the comments for the panel. We've got a very experienced panel over here with us, so feel free to post your questions over here. Robin, hi Robin, good to see you. Okay, great. So Kevin, do you want to start with the first one?
Yeah, well, the first one, finding suppliers. And we've been seeing a lot of comments where people are coming back to the group and, sort of getting lost in sort of the space of trying to find a supplier. Now, we can't go to trade fairs, so that was a great source for us all to go to trade fairs, meet lovely people who are like sourcing agents or vendors from factories or whatever. I see a lot of people who sort of find their way to India Mart, and I think a lot of people get caught up with India Mart is mainly for the domestic sort of part of India, and they're not sort of really export focused. A lot of the factories, and so when it comes to sending their goods to Amazon, it just doesn't happen. And obviously, there might also be where you've got not an export focused supplier. There may be even a language difficulty there also, because sometimes if they're not export focused, then they're not dealing with European people all the time, and so therefore the communication might be a problem too. And that's what I find. And in the group, we've put together a lot of, and we've done a lot of homework in bringing a lot of suppliers to the group that we vetted. We spoke to them at length. We've checked credentials. We've checked certification. We know they're genuine factories. We know they have showrooms, and we know that they can make, fantastic sort of stuff. And the other side, there is sourcing agents on one hand, and we've got factories on the other. So there's people in the group that will gladly help you people that are looking, and so there's really no need to sort of get lost en route to finding any products. If you sort of follow the process we're trying to put in place for you guys. And then jump in, girls, with me, because India Mart it's caused a couple of little hiccups with some people, hasn't it?
Huge hiccups, Kevin. So just yesterday somebody posted in the group that they sourced a product from an India Mart supplier, and they've got crappy product, and thankfully Akanksha is helping that buyer, and hopefully she'll be able to get back some of her her money, but it was like a $20,000 order or something, and it was botched.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it was huge, and so yeah, you got to be very careful. So
Yeah.
I want to ask you, Kumud, what do you guys think about India Mart? And I know that there are good suppliers on India Mart too. There are exporters, but what is your take, Kumud, on using India Mart?
Actually, on India Mart, what I would suggest that it is good to source the product from there, but you don't know the credentials of a particular supplier there, or how that vendor is going to respond to you, because they are definitely linked to this website. But when you connect to them, they are definitely good while sourcing. But you don't know really what will happen in production, how after you've given your money, it's really at stake. We are facing with one of our buyers, and we are really having issues working with that supplier. The shipment has yet not gone, and the buyer has already paid 50% advance. So shipment is here for past 4 to 5 months. It's still not going. So
Yeah.
I mean, initially, of course, India Mart suppliers do respond, and that's their responsibility, and they do it very well. We get connected to that supplier later. Maybe we are also helpless because the buyer has already made the payment to the vendor, and the vendor is already working over it, not working over it. We can only monitor. We
Yeah.
cannot actually get a hang of it.
And I
It's
think
very
also
difficult to get.
the issue is that sometimes the vendors on India Mart, they are trading companies and they're not really manufacturers, or they are
Absolutely.
posing as and that's what happened with this buyer who posted in the group. So
Yes.
Rajat, Ajit, what about you guys? What do you use India Mart at all for sourcing suppliers? Wait, you're muted. Let me unmute you. I think you need to
Am I
unmute yourself.
audible?
Yeah, you're okay
Am
now.
I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, India Mart was basically a directory of suppliers of anything. So it doesn't provide any specific thing. And when you come to for sourcing a product that can be exported, it needs a lot of expertise to produce or to replicate that product. So through India Mart, you will not come to know a factory that has the production capability or not. You can know that this product is available on India Mart, this can be sourced, but what is their actual production capability, that must be checked before placing an order through India Mart supplier.
And most of the suppliers you will find on India Mart are mostly for the local domestic market compared to
Yeah.
international. Most of them are only vetted to do domestic business. When you talk about them internationally, most of them do not have the IC code. Ideally, once you place the order on international business, they then might start that documentation things. So it's a quite challenging thing. You need to check all records beforehand before you move ahead to do any business with India Mart people.
Yeah, and I think they probably also aren't good on like doing your packaging, obviously your shipping cartons. They don't understand the Amazon way, and because most of the suppliers we've now got on board, they have usually done some work for somebody else, so they've been sort of given that information, and we're there to help them. And obviously, if they're using either of you guys, you know all the things that are needed for Amazon, so it's a much safer route to take, either to go to a sourcing agent or use one of the buyers that we've sort of verified, because at least then they should know, and if they get stuck with something, they could come back to me and ask the question back to us if there was something that they had never exported before that was a little bit different for them. But I mean, at least we're there to support them because we're all part of the same sort of family now. So I think it's a lot more beneficial using someone that or that comes recommended through the groups, or either of you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
When,
So Alan is
when
saying
we are
you
talking,
got to run
yeah,
on the 13th
when
of
we
July.
are talking of India,
Hello, Alan. Good luck on a 30th hole, mate.
Richard, good to see you, Richard. Long time.
Yeah, Richard. Yeah. He's grown a moustache.
Yeah, go ahead, Ajit. You were saying something.
yeah, when we talk of India Mart suppliers, they are sellers and traders basically. But for a product to be moved out of country, to be exported out of country of India, we need a producer, not a seller or not a trader. We need a producer with good production capabilities and system. So there's a challenge of doing. You may find some producers also on IndiaMart, but it's very rare chance. They can sell a
And
product
also to
by trading
Yeah.
and also to add on to what
as per
Ajit
the
is
requirement of country where it may be exported.
Right. Go ahead,
And also
Kumud.
to add on what Ajit is saying, normally what happens, they are for domestic market and they don't have the export-import license which is required for shipping. So while anybody decides to work with an India Mart supplier, the first and foremost thing they need to check is whether they have import-export license or they are registered to ship out of Mumbai port. These things are the basic things which normally when you go to a supplier, you're not checking and you start working on a product, and suddenly when it's the time for shipping, we get to know the vendor is actually stuck in all these documents and cannot ship the shipment out. So these two things must be checked at the supplier's end while you're working with India Mart supplier.
Right.
We need to
Fantastic.
ask for the video call with them. We have to
Yeah.
actually, if we are really interested, we ask them to submit all your IC code, your last shipping bill. Once you get metallized into your final stage, you should ask all these documents and get them verified with your forwarder if you have already decided to check whether the supplier has already done shipment in past or not. Plus, we can also arrange a video call to look at their production facilities. These things can be arranged because if supplier is fine, he can also arrange small things for customer.
IC
Yeah.
code and shipping bill, previous shipping bill is a must.
Yeah.
These two documents are must if a new buyer is working with a new supplier from India Mart.
Right. So IEC code, just to repeat, IEC code, that's the import export code that all suppliers
Yeah.
need in order to export from India. So you should definitely
Yeah.
ask for that. And but that doesn't mean that they are a factory, right? That just means that they have
Plus,
a
No, they
license
all
could
to
be
the
trade.
traded.
Export.
Could be a
Yeah.
trader.
Yeah, it
plus
still
this
could be traded. Yeah.
India Mart's suppliers add GST also, which is sometimes 18% because they are
Oh,
mostly
wow.
domestic sellers. So compared to exporter, they do not add the GST. But these local suppliers, they are not aware of. They ask for the 18% and they add in their cost. So sometimes they might ask you to for more money as well. So these things has to be taken care of.
Yeah. So you've got to be
And the
mindful of that.
AD code is another important thing,
Yeah,
whether they
yeah,
can
yeah.
ship it
AD card registration at the port. Yeah,
from Mumbai
What's
port
the
or not.
AD?
So,
What's the
right,
AD
right.
code? Can you explain that?
yeah, it's
AD
basically a
code,
code which they are
authorization
assigned if
document.
they
Yeah,
are
yeah.
authorized. Rajat, if you want to explain, that's okay.
Yeah, please, please.
I will tell you. See, AD code is when a particular company is exporting out of India, the government of India customs department give them a code as per the port. When they are registered at Mumbai port, their goods will not be checked like they are doing some kind of illegal business. So that they issue a code, authorization code at every port. So if I want to export a goods out of Mumbai port, then I must be registered at Mumbai port and I have a AD code. If I want to export out of Delhi airport, then I must have a AD code for Delhi that
Delhi.
I can export out of Delhi customs.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So do we
Yeah,
want to move
yeah.
on to the next one then? So I think
Yes,
this
look,
is
yeah,
Mark,
we'll go on. Yeah, look, I just want to touch on inspection services because that's come up a couple of times. People are complaining where they've got products into America and find that there's faults in them. Now, we have got inspection services in our group. So if you're using your own supplier, there's two ways you can do this. You can there's the inspection services which we have featured, and you can go back and find all those. Are you going to put the inspection service up on the screen, maybe Megla, or not?
yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
That's good.
So then what you would need to do is you can decide whether you're going to, depends how complex your product is, and I'll let maybe the sourcing agent speak further on this, because if you've got something that's really simple, it might only need an inspection at the end. But if you've developed something brand new that's a bit intricate, I think you probably need, at least one sort of finalisation inspection as well. But if you don't want to and you're doing a really small shipment, you don't want to go to that cost, what I find also is very helpful is to jump online. With India, you can easily, it's not like dealing in China where they won't hop on a screen and share their screen and show you your product. So we actually jump on all the time with our supplier and say, we want to have a look at the sample, where you're at with it, or what our product's at. Can you show us that product in the box now? How does it fit? So, and you can communicate really well as well. So it depends how complex your product is, I think, and the error that you can have in it. But initially, for your first one, if you don't know the supplier and you haven't, got anyone recommending them to you, I would suggest that you spend, it's about, $250 was it, or something, for an inspection with a inspection company, I think.
Yeah.
So, if you want to do that, or if you use the services of a sourcing agent, that's included in their fee. And I'll let you both then. Now, do you want to go on and talk about, both of you, maybe, Kumud, do you want to start and just how you do the sourcing and what's included, like how you do the inspections?
Sure. We normally are doing all kinds of communication, the product development, everything is included in our fee. And also we do inspections at every level, whether it's a pilot run inspection, the initial inspection on initial 15 to 20 pieces, then the midline and the final inspection. And we normally do 2.5 AQL. That's what we charge for in our fee. In case the inspections are required 100%, the charges may be different in that case. We are also looking at the product from the product stage till the production stage. So we are doing all kinds of communication till that stage, doing all the update to the buyer, the client, whatever they want to know about their product, what kind of construction needs to be more production friendly. So we update and we keep updating the buyer on every front during the production.
Okay. Rajat, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, we also follow the same protocols. We look from the raw material itself. Like in some cases, we need to understand the raw material, the fabric, the other products. So we'll also look from the raw material stage. We also do inspection of the raw material. So we do not have any hiccups or problems at the last final inspection. So we train the factory from the pilot run itself.
And when you look at the product from raw material stage, then you come to know that raw material has certain MOQ and product has certain different MOQ. So for an Amazon buyer, it's very good to know that what product they are buying. Say if they buy 200 products and their raw material MOQ is different, like 5,000 meters or 5,000 pieces, everything, then there's a challenge of getting 200 pieces for the first production out of 5 and larger MOQ raw material. So that needs to be addressed as well.
Yeah, so I think people, you can see that if you're using a sourcing service, you get a very good inspection service thrown in with that cost. So it really makes the cost of the whole sourcing. And I think if you're starting out and you've got no idea of dealing with a manufacturer and all the bits and pieces like your raw material and even your boxing and your packaging, it does make it a lot easier if you want to go down that track. But look, everyone, we've got a lot of more experienced people in our group as well who have been sourcing a long time, maybe from China or somewhere else, who are able to go in and handle that themselves. So it's not for everyone, and I think it's really up to you and your confidence and in which way you go. But I think no matter what, you need to either get an inspection done or at least get online. If you're doing it yourself, at every stage with your supplier and look and talk and don't just give them an order and say, oh, it's going to be ready in 3 months and ring them up the day before and say, is it ready? That isn't the way you do it. You've got to be working together the whole time. It's a partnership. It's not just something you set and forget and go away.
Yeah,
inspection services gives you peace of mind for buyers. For buyers, it's a peace of mind when they engage some inspection services. At least they are not bothered what product are they delivering to the warehouse. So it's a peace of mind for everybody involved there, for supplier as well and for buyer as well.
Yeah. There are
Also,
no
apart from
surprises.
that, I agree that, it's very important for the buyer because they're mostly buying for Amazon, which is online, and they want their product to be safe and secured. So we will ensure that when it is packed in proper packaging and what kind of amendments need to be done on the product to make it more safer in transit or maybe constructionally viable for the vendor to produce. So that's the role of sourcing agent, basically getting involved in those kinds of communications with the vendor, and then just updating the buyer that this kind of product change is going to make the product more customer friendly and user friendly, and also any kind of changes which will make the packaging more sturdier for shipping. So that's the kind of update that we give to the buyer and to the client, whatever they want to work on their product. So that's what we do.
Right. And I also think that it's not enough to just do the inspection on the first order, because sometimes buyers think that, okay, the first order we've done an inspection and that's enough. You need to do it on
Yes,
every order, because
Yep.
maybe,
absolutely.
the raw material has changed or something has changed on the assembly line, or there could be so many things that can go wrong with each order. So it has to be done for each and every order. It's not just enough to do it for the first order of a supplier. So Jackie has a question. Would you get an inspection for 300 units?
Yes.
Who wants to take
Yes,
that?
I think it's required because initially when a vendor is producing certain quantity, whether it's 100 or 50 or whatever, we would ensure during the first once the piece is ready or the counter sample which is there, we work on the construction. Then we go in for a pilot run inspection for 4 to 5 pieces only to ensure that the product can be rightly made for it's more user friendly, and then only we go ahead and ask the vendor to produce it finally, whether it's 100 pieces or 50 pieces or whatever. So 300 pieces is a substantial quantity. We must do inspection for it.
Yeah, and really,
Same
when
thing,
you
yeah.
work that back, it's only $1 or something a product. It's not that much extra. For the sake of $1, when you're going to be burning money on PPC, $1 is really not much in the scheme
Yeah.
of things.
And for that peace of mind that what you've got in the box and what you put on, if you're spending money to ship it to the US, and by the time it gets to the US, and if it hasn't been inspected properly, and then all the, has to go into the bin because you can't sell it or you get refunds. That for that peace of mind, an inspection is a must.
Right.
Yes.
So, okay, so we've covered inspections. So let's move on to the next one, which is working with sourcing agents. And we have many people asking about this in the group. Should we work with a sourcing agent? Should we not? There's extra cost involved. So I think there are, many ways or many reasons why you would work with a sourcing agent. And I think one of the biggest reasons is how hands-on do you want to be in the sourcing process. So that's one big advantage working with a sourcing agent, that they manage all of the sourcing for you, and you don't have to deal with the supplier and talk to them and make sure that you're on top of the supplier for deliveries or quality or everything else. So I see it as being similar to other aspects of your business. For example, PPC. Amazon PPC, many people outsource PPC to an agency because they are the specialists, and there are lots of people who specialize in PPC and they would do a better job at it. So I think sourcing agents should be seen in the same way. So it's like you're outsourcing your sourcing to another agency. And of course, when you outsource and you hire somebody for their services, you have to pay them. So it's not an additional fee. It's basically you're paying for the job being done, and you're of course saving your own time and effort. So you're paying them a fee for their services, which you would do for any other service that you would outsource, whether it's PPC or copywriting or images. So it's similar to that. And another reason I think you would work with a sourcing agent is if you are unable to find a supplier for the product that you're looking for. And sourcing agents have their own vetted suppliers for specific products. They know what products is manufactured where, so you can leverage and take advantage of the knowledge and experience that sourcing agents have. Also, I think another advantage is if you're having trouble with your existing supplier, you can have a sourcing agent to help follow up with the supplier. A lot of people do that. So they already have a supplier, existing supplier that they work with, but they hire a sourcing agent to follow up with the supplier, to manage deadlines, and just to have somebody represent their business on the ground. So that's another reason to, maybe you have a great supplier, but they're not good with deadlines, or, you need somebody to keep following up with them. So a sourcing agent who's on the ground in the same city can go visit the factory and just hound them and, be very persistent when it comes to deadlines. I think that's another advantage. What do you guys think, Mark?
Well, I think if you're actually, like a lot of people I know, maybe working full time, got a couple of children, I don't know how you would fit, a full-time job, coming home from work, getting the kids' homework done, getting to bed, and then at 10 o'clock at night going, oh, now I'm going to ring the supplier up, and then I've got to design the box, and we've got to work with him on the box. Like, it's not just a piece of paper, here's my order. You've got to think about how you want it packaged, with your box design, what's going on your box, you're putting inserts. It's not just one simple little thing. So, and then you've got to work about, a lot of the suppliers will understand shipping cartons and go and do that for you, but you've got to be on top of it. Have you done my shipping cartons? Are they organised as well? You've got to run the show. If you haven't employed a sourcing agent, you are the sourcing agent. So you really need a checklist, and you need to be going down that checklist, going back to your supplier. Is this done? Are we on track for that date? I want it, down at the port by this date. All those things are your responsibility. And if you're working, full time and got children or something, I just think it's near on, an impossible task unless you don't want to sleep at all. I think it's a good way to start. But, it's different. Look, if you've got the whole day and you've got some time and you're confident enough to deal with your supplier, that's fair enough. But I think if you're time poor, it's a definite way to go, because, the amount of hours that the suppliers and the sourcing agents work together, you'd be doing that. So, I think it's something to think about. And the cost is minimal. When you look at it over an order, it might be a little bit more expensive on your first order if you're doing a small number. But, once you start ordering 1,000 pieces or something, you'll find that sourcing agents' fees aren't that expensive, really. So it's not going to be too much out of your profit margin. And I think you can probably save some money even by them getting you a better price, perhaps, or knowing, better ways of packaging. They might have a better idea. And if a sourcing agent can save you an inch on the size of your box because they're on the ground, that inch could pay for your sourcing agent, because that extra inch in shipping, it could be oversized, it could be $4 a product. So there's your sourcing agent paid for. So, there's lots of ways,
Yeah. And also, if you're not very familiar with the product, I think the sourcing agent can really, guide you. For example, a lot of people buy wooden products from India, but they don't know which wood to use, for example, or what are the issues that can, come about. So I think somebody like Kumud, who's so specialized in wooden products, can be very helpful and can guide you and, can advise you, okay, don't use this wood, or do it during this season, don't do it during this season, or, things like that. So,
I've noticed. Sorry, Meghna. I've noticed now that a lot of people come into the group and have recommendations. Can you help me to source a particular sort of product?
Yeah.
And I know that the sourcing agents, I've got many sort of leads that they can sort of take you to. But we've had some really sort of obscure items that people have asked us to can we help them to source. All right, a lot of in the past, people go to China and they expect that they can source everything in China. Now, India, since we've sort of opened up India sourcing, which it's only been a year and just over a year now, and so we've opened up a Pandora's box of a lot of people don't exactly know what they can source from India. And a lot of things can be sourced from India, and this is gold. It's you can source many items from India. Okay, some silicon items or some electrical items are still not quite sort of there yet, but there's many items that can be sourced or manufactured in India. So India is a real go-to place for that.
So I think a lot of sourcing agents also specialize in certain product categories.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Rajat and Ajit, I want to ask you guys. So do you think it's easy for sourcing agents to specialize in one category, or is it not a problem for you guys to source any product, and products that you're not
It's
familiar with? Is it okay
more
for you?
about the systems you follow. So it depends. Definitely, you should have some basic knowledge. It's not that you don't have anything or just started something new. But if you have some basic knowledge or you follow all the systems, then you get a right product.
And also, it's not a question of specializing in product. When you take an inspection service, then the specialization should be there. But sourcing, if the sourcing agent follow a systematic approach towards the product, then sourcing agent can source any product from you. And one more thing that I will like to tell you, that see, we source for different companies in India also, because they specialize in selling and we specialize in sourcing. So they took their time to sell more rather than to source product out of India also. And we source product for them, for Indian companies also. We source many product for Indian companies as well.
So they
Yeah,
put their more
definitely.
time in the marketing things
Marketing and selling.
Right. So, okay, let's also talk about, do you introduce the buyer to the supplier? Because I think this is one question that people ask, and this is one of the concerns that we've seen from buyers, that, hey, I don't know who is the supplier making my product if I source via a sourcing agent. So, what is your approach in that sort of situation?
We are
See,
introducing the vendors, but at the initial stages, while we are working with 2, 3 suppliers and taking the quotations and seeing who is the best to be offered, we are normally offering the best quotation and the best supplier for that particular product. Say I have got $1 for one product, $2 from another vendor. So I would rather see if $2 vendor can actually perform or do the production of that, and how competitive $1 quotation vendor is. So accordingly, I will work with maybe quotation one, or the person who has given $1 as a quotation may not be able to justify the product. So I have to quote $2 only to the buyer. So, this is how actually I would work on my product and see who is the right vendor for particular product, because we are getting varied product offers from the clients, that this is what they want to make, and some products are viable to be done in India and some cannot be done actually. They are basically Chinese products. So we have to look out for those types of factories who can actually perform and give the production of that particular product. We might not be as competitive as China, but yes, we do quality products only. So we would look for the vendors who would be right for that particular product category. At that stage, we might not be able to give the buyer about information about who is going to be the vendor, because at the back end we are working with 4, 5 vendors at the back end. So while the product is getting manufactured, they get all the information on who is the vendor, where they are going to place the order, because it comes in the vendor's name. The orders are placed in vendor's name. So I don't think that we are not transparent about communicating about who the vendor is.
Okay. Yeah, what about you, Rajat?
Like same thing for us as well. Initially, when we had 2, 3 suppliers to choose which supplier will make out the product. Sometimes supplier buyer has very developed their own design. So we first choose on the supplier. Then the things get materialized. We normally get introduced to our supplier, to the buyer. We have no issues in doing that. But if the order quantity is, let's say, 100 or 200 pieces, and sometime buyer wants, then also we can do that. But in
basically, we filter the information
yeah.
to the buyer. We filter and give the right information to the buyer. We are very much transparent to the buyer, but if they want all the information, we can provide them. But then it will not be the same thing to work with many 5 suppliers or a sourcing agent. We filter the information and give the right information to the buyer.
Sometimes there's a lot of information with supplier which we filter at our end itself. Then it becomes too much for buyer to handle, and they feel that's for the purpose of
sourcing agent. Yeah, the purpose get depleted if we introduce them to the 5-6 supplier, and then they will be bothered with a lot of information. So that filtration needs to be there.
Yeah, I think that's, of course, the benefit of working with a sourcing agent. You do all of the filtration and vetting of suppliers, and then recommend the best supplier to the buyer. So that's a huge, job, and definitely a big part of the process. And the buyer doesn't have to worry about have they found the right supplier? Is it a legitimate supplier or not?
We have come with customers, those who are introducing their suppliers to us. If this is our supplier, we want to work with them. Now you be our agent in India, and you take care of that and give us the filter information. So this is happening right now with us. We have 3 customers who are doing the same thing with us.
Yeah, I've heard of that as well. People have found their suppliers, but maybe it's not, they haven't been able to work with the supplier really well, so they want somebody on the ground. Yeah, I've heard buyers doing that recently as well. But I also want to point out that, for buyers, they should not just bypass the supplier, the sourcing agent, after the supplier has been introduced. I think that is not fair to the sourcing agent, because they've done their job, and they're not really making money on the first order, right? Because you're doing so much work in the first order, vetting the supplier, spending so much time and visiting the factory. So I don't think you guys are making much money on the first order. It's mostly the subsequent orders where you're actually hopefully making some money. So yeah, I would just point this out to all buyers, that don't just bypass your sourcing agent after they've introduced you to the factory. And I'm sure you guys also maybe sometimes have some contracts in place with the buyers where you specify that they cannot bypass you for I think that's important as well, because I know some I mean, it's fair, right? You need to be paid for what you do. Do you guys also have a service where you offer a fixed fee? Let's say somebody tells you, okay, I want to look for a supplier. I don't want the sourcing agent to help follow up with the orders or anything, but I just want you to recommend 2 suppliers for this product and charge a fixed fee for that. Do you do that as well, or no?
We haven't come across something like this, but if this makes sense, we are open for that.
Okay, cool. If there are any questions about working with sourcing agents, guys, type them in the comments now. If not, we can move on to the next one, which is Margaret, yours.
Okay, yes. Now, look, I just want to make a point here that whether you're going to a sourcing agent or a supplier directly, you need to know what you want. It's no good going to Kumud or Rajat and saying, oh, I wouldn't mind a wooden bowly thing, or I'd like to do some wooden products. I mean, I have people come to me all the time and go, oh, do you know some suppliers of wood? What do you want to make? Oh, I don't know. What do you think I should sell? And I presume you probably have that same issue, that people come to you and want you to find the golden egg to go on Amazon. So I think, you need, I don't know, what do you actually ask for from people? Do you get a brief exactly? How do you get them to tell you exactly what they want so the communication is not lost along the way? Because, I mean, it must be very difficult for you to get out of some people exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah, and Kumud, maybe you can answer this. So, what is the information that you really require from buyers when they reach out to you for the first time?
As Margaret said, normally sometimes I get the queries on just the image that I'm getting, and I have to source for that. Can you do this product? But if somebody is looking for certain product, definitely they have some kind of specs in their mind, some kind of tech pack which they have. It would be good if the buyer is coming with all the information in the first mail, while they're giving the information on the product that they want to source, the type of wood they are looking for, or they want us to give those options to them, or the type of, the material that they are looking for certain product. Can we offer them alternate materials, or, the order quantities which they are looking for the first order, how they are going to place their order. Is it online order, or is it a retail? Normally what I see here, we are working for Amazon, so it's all online, because the kind of packaging also has to be worked upon while working on the quotations. So we work accordingly. And we can, if it'll be good if they can indicate certain kind of target, if they have in their mind that they're going to sell this product at say $5, so we can at least work on the FOB cost that they would need out of India, so that it's more workable product for them. So we can always offer an alternate product, or maybe alternate material, in that sense, not the product, I'm sorry, alternate material. Maybe in another type of wood we can offer that particular material, or another metal, or any other kind of combination that we can offer, which will be more viable for them to work on. So these kinds of informations are mandatory for us while working with a supplier on the product. And a supplier almost needs 4 to 5 days to work with their factory and their team to give a certain product which is more workable in that particular price target that we would be asking. So I think all these informations are required on a product.
Yeah. And Kumud, if someone come to you with a design of a particular anything, yeah, and what's the procedure then?
If they come up with all the a particular tech pack, then I would work with the supplier on all the types of options that they can offer.
Yeah.
If they've not given any material information or anything, I would go and ask the supplier, get the quotation for that particular as is what the buyer wants, and give some other alternatives also to that, so that if they have not given any target, then I would, from my end only, I'll offer 2-3 options. So that's how I work normally.
Excellent.
Yeah, Rajat, how about you? Ajit?
Like same thing, like we also demand all the tech packs, all the specifications, the color. Sometimes they want some different color which is not possible in that product. So all the colors, all that is their test requirements. Sometimes they want the weatherproof. Sometimes the wood doesn't come, the product doesn't come in that way. Plus sometimes they demand something Chinese product out of India. So that need to be specified. So in sometimes we ask them to provide us a sample as well, because sometimes it's not possible to look from the figures from the sketches, because sometimes they process only by hands. Some are not very have all the tools, the software with them. They just make sketches by hand. So the same thing we demand, the all the specification from the initial itself, so we can tell them what is possible, what is not possible.
Right. So the more details people give to you at the beginning, the easier the process
Sometimes
is for
they do not
everybody.
open with the order quantity. If they do not tell us what is their test requirement, sometimes they ask for 100 pieces, but making 100 pieces is not viable for them. The shipping cost must be more or double or the same like the product cost. So at the end, they will not place the order. So that things we discuss with them initially itself. If this much is
Right.
the shipping cost. The order value should be justified, with the shipping cost.
Right. So materials, order quantity, target price,
Right.
Tech pack.
tech
The tech
pack
pack.
if applicable. Yeah.
The,
And
the testing requirements, the packaging requirements, everything. They should tell us
packaging
in
requirements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Do you
normally
guys
we
have
go.
a template that you give to buyers? Do you have like a template where they can put in all of this information?
No,
We can
not
tell them
really.
that.
It's basically
Yeah.
you can make a product like whatever the size is, even if that's mentioned by hand, that's workable. I mean, whatever way the buyer is comfortable giving the information in. So they can just mention the size or dimension or the thickness they want the product in. Sometimes, they are giving that all that information, but only the thickness point is missing. So thickness makes a lot of difference to the product cost. What kind of material are you going to source, what kind of thickness of that product is, it all depends on that. So if they have specified each and everything on the product, even by simple thing like by hand they have mentioned it, it's fine. I mean, as long as we are getting all the information of the product, we can work with the vendor on that. And normally we are quoting all our prices in FOB Mumbai base. Sometimes some buyers also are looking for the ex factory price. So they can always mention whether they would be comfortable working on FOB cost, FOB Mumbai cost, because they have their own freight forwarder who will, be engaged in that shipment from Mumbai to US. So they can always mention that. It's always advised to. And the payment terms of our vendors are normally 50% advance and 50% upon producing the BL. So that's all that should be discussed in the first round itself. It will be very convenient for all of us to work over it.
Right. So would you suggest that maybe they send you an initial email and then you get on a call, like a Zoom call, and just have all of these discussions?
Yeah. That's always advisable. That always gives the what is in their mind. Sometimes they have not mentioned particular thing, and if we discuss that during a call or a virtual call, it's always good. It's always good to be on a virtual call after that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. Anything else, Marg, for this one?
No, I think that's, I just think, that we've pretty well covered everything on that. I think it's communication. It's really what you've got to do is get it right.
Yeah, know your product. But what does somebody do if they don't know the product or if they don't know the material? Because a lot of times, Mark, right? People go to Amazon and they see this high demand, low supply kind of product, and they don't know what the material is, right? So what do they do in that case? I mean, should they maybe just buy a sample from Amazon and
I think
try to reverse engineer?
It's a good. I know a lot of people do get samples of different products from Amazon to, they might get 2 or 3 different ones and look at how they're made, and then maybe modify, a couple of them into one product. I know some people who have sent suppliers in India products and said, this is what I've got. Can you make something, but make the handle a different shape, or make it in different wood or something. So I mean, there are several ways, but I think it's pretty pie in the sky just to sort of have this picture in your mind and not know what it's made of. And I mean, that's why I think I love going to the shows and actually touching and feeling everything, because I think that is a bit of the best way to do things is to actually feel and touch something before and then what you're really looking at and looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, communicating your requirements, which is kind of similar to what we just discussed. But Kevin, do you want to take this one?
I think he's frozen, is he?
Kevin, you're frozen. Oh, yeah. I think he's having connectivity issues today.
I keep on thing. So, communicating your products. But
he's dropped out, I think. He's dropped out again.
Dropped out. Do you want to take, Mark, do you want to take over that question for me then if I keep dropping out?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, look, and I think it's just being so clear and concise. And I know you don't always know exactly what you want, because, I mean, I've done it. We started off with a product thinking we wanted it to do this and that. And then once we get the first sample, we go, oh, hang on a minute, this would be better done like this. So, I mean, there is always time to change your mind. It doesn't say just because you ask for that sample the first time and when you see it in reality, it mightn't be exactly as you pictured, or the supplier mightn't have made it exactly what you've asked for. So I think, you don't always just do the very first sample and get it 100% right. There's usually a bit of tweaking with something somewhere along the way, because, it's very hard unless you've paid somebody to do a complete tech pack and a drawing and, CAD design and everything that you've got someone to work off to get that sort of story. It's in my brain and I can picture it and I think it looks like this, but, the supplier has got this other impression. So I think it's pretty important to be prepared to maybe, have to tweak that first sample in lots of cases. And I'm assuming you sourcing agents would be doing that quite often with the products, sort of going back and saying, that's not what I asked you for, we want it looking like this. And it's a bit harder for you guys because you've got to get the person's idea into your brain and then you've got to still keep that going the same way to the supplier. So it's even harder, because you're the meat in the sandwich. And so it's very hard to get that story to, to everyone, because everyone's idea of what they're thinking is probably slightly different. And how do you handle that, guys? Do you find that difficult?
Yes, we do that, Mark, most of the times. But it's very interesting to read out what the buyer is actually wanting to work on. And normally, how we do is that we are normally sharing the images of whatever gets ready, and if any changes are there, we incorporate that and send the right sample out to the buyer, because it's avoiding a lot of back and forth with the vendor, that the sample has gone and it's not liked by the buyer at the end of the day. So we normally want to send a sample which is like constructionally also, and proportionately also right, and all the images sent to the buyer prior to sending the sample out, and they're happy with the construction and the changes done. So once everything is finalized, then only we are shipping that sample out for just their review, that you've already seen it. Now this is coming to you in a physical form, and you can review it now and place the orders. So that's how that this is also called a clear communication from our end. So one is the
Yeah.
communication from the buyer's end, of course, which we are expecting, but it also has to be from the suppliers and the sourcing agents end, so that the buyer is actually happy working with us, and they are given the right product to them on their table to make the orders on.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, so Rajat and Ajit, what about you guys? What sort of issues do you find in terms of communication with buyers?
It's muted.
Oh, you're muted. I think this is the most commonly
Sometimes,
used phrase in
yeah,
2020. You're muted.
sometimes customers do not give their complete thing. They sometimes do communication on WhatsApp. Time they do communication on Messenger. Sometimes they comes on email. So this is quite sometimes we miss sometimes one of the other things, because we ask them when it is all approval things, the financial thing, the price and everything, it has to be on email. One, it's a faster communication to showing the pictures or the idea, while in the factory. WhatsApp or Messenger is fine. But for the formal things, we appreciate to go through over the email, because email a long laster. You can check after 6 months or a year. Sometimes WhatsApp or Messenger message goes off. And in terms of the communication, we do have some issues, but we make them call and we keep asking them to clarify that.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. If everything is in
Yeah.
one document, I mean, not even an
Yeah,
email. I think in email
because
also, they send multiple emails, and each email has like, one change. Oh, sorry, can you just make this change as well? Oh, one
yeah,
more
yeah.
change here, and it's easy to miss those emails
Yeah.
and WhatsApp messages. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. You
No,
were saying
it's
something, Rajat.
So we appreciate that communication has to be in a formal manner. Once we close the order, the PO needs to be there, the PI needs to be there. All these things, the counter communication need
Yeah,
to be in
I find
writing.
it.
keeps going.
Yeah, Kevin's trying to say something.
I'm muted. I can't.
Is it fine now?
You keep freezing.
You keep freezing. Yeah, he's frozen again. I think
He's got freezed. Yeah.
keep going, Rajat.
So this is we tell our customers that in terms of the requirement, the formal communication needs to be there on the emails, and in terms of the requirement, they have to tell us all things in detail, like in terms of the requirement, like what a quantity, what is their target price. Sometimes they prefer same price like the China, which is out of question in India in some products. So that has to be tell us in communication well. It should not only show us the one picture that this needs to be done. We need all the details, like what are the sizes and everything. That communication needs to be clear.
Right. So communicate clearly in an email, in a formal email, not just WhatsApp.
Yeah.
WhatsApp is good for
Yeah.
quick updates. Like if you want to
Right.
ask, hey
Right.
Rajat, what's
Right.
going on with the order? Has the supplier
Right.
started production, or something like that? Or can you send me a video, or things like
Right.
that? But otherwise, if you, I mean, your specific requirements need to be sent in a formal email. Do you
So
guys
it will
also have a
always be there.
document
Yeah.
for each buyer? Do you have some sort of a document where you have all of the requirements for the buyer?
Yeah. Yeah, we
We're
keep
not
adding
getting
more.
it actually.
Rajat, go
Please,
ahead.
Ajit.
You carry on. We do not have a specific
Yeah.
format for that because it's a general thing. Like in terms of purchase order, we prefer to have all the price, the lead time, the ex factory date they are looking at. It's a FOB price or the ex factory price, and what all need to be done. That all need to be taken care of. So it all has to be formally communicated to the supplier and to us. So that is how we can find. We can
So the
follow it.
so the purchase order
Yeah,
is where all of the
yeah,
product
yeah, yeah, yeah,
specifications and
yeah, yeah.
terms are indicated, right?
Like sometimes,
We have systematically three, four documents that we provide to buyer. That
Okay.
one is when a sample is there, we provide them the product evaluation sheet where the product is properly evaluated and whatever there is. Then other thing is financial things, what will be the payment terms and how these need to be added and when it should be paid. That's a separate document and it's been a formatted one. And then when the order is started, PO is confirmed, we give the buyer a proper time and action plan, that is T&A, so that the buyer is aware when the PP sample will come, when the inline inspection will be done, when the midline inspection will be done, and when the final inspection and shipment date is there. So these are two, three formats, documented formats that we provide to the buyer for their better understanding of product and production process.
like
Okay.
in my instance, like recently we had one order where buyer want to pay by PayPal, and she got stuck. Yeah, I will only pay by PayPal. And our suppliers, most of them are not aware of PayPal because they used to do export by TT or bank instruments.
Bank transfer.
Now it took more than a week just to understand that PayPal is not possible in India. And if supplier open an account, then 5% will go waste. The charges PayPal deducts. So they have to tell us initially all the communication. This is how they want to plan. That is very important.
Right. So it's always good
Agree.
to just have a conversation with
Yeah,
the sourcing agent at the beginning of the process and get
right,
as much information as you can about your order
right.
right at the beginning. So okay, cool, great. Kevin
Just
is
something, can
having
I,
tech issues.
he's just, it's not working. Can I just
Yeah.
say something that keeps coming to my mind, because I have a lot of people come to me and say, oh, I got a quote for something from India and it was $4 or $5 dearer than China, so I went back to China. And I go, oh, but did you ask about the tax you pay when you go into sort of America? Oh, no. And a lot of people don't know, and I don't know, do you strike that as well? People are coming to you and are used to paying 35% tax or something from China, and most of your stuff's what, 4% or something as a general sort of rough rule. Do you find a lot of buyers don't take that into consideration when they're moving from China back to India? Because obviously if you're buying something off India for $10, you really would have been paying 14 for that if you did the same $10 in China with your extra 30 or 40% markup on it. If you come across that? Because I just have a lot of people who say, oh, India's too dear. But if they go back and look at the actual cost for cost, to get it landed in America, it's much cheaper from India and the quality is better.
So buyers should be aware of the landed cost as well.
Yeah.
In whichever country they are getting their products landed, they should be aware of the landed cost because India, Bangladesh, Vietnam has certain GSP preferences, that is generalized system of preferences, while they export to USA. And in Europe, they have some treaty with some countries where India and third world countries and other countries get some preferences while they export to those countries. So the product actually landed cost comes much cheaper.
The duty
Yeah.
is lesser.
The duties are
If you
lesser.
import a buy from some certain countries.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So you've got to take into account all of the costs, not only the actual product cost, but transportation and duties as well. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, which is NNNs and NDAs. So I want to ask you guys, when do you sign NNNs with buyers, and how do you manage that when you are working with a supplier? So is the NNN between you and the buyer and the supplier? Is it like a three-way NNN, or how is it done?
It's
Yeah,
sometimes
it's a
three-way.
three-way.
Okay, Rajat,
Like
go first.
sometimes it's three-way. we also give our signature, supplier also sign it, and it's always three ways is always better. Suppliers also get bound to the same NN agreement.
Okay.
Agree.
Kumud, what about you?
Yeah, it's the same way. We are also following a three-way contract. We are normally getting it signed from the vendor, and then the buyer also signs it. Once the NNN is signed, then only we forward the development because it's very confidential product, and they don't want us. Once we get a permission from them to now give them the tech pack. Once we sign the NNN, we get the tech pack from the buyer, and then only we are going to forward it to the vendor. Because once they are in contract with us, they will not, their product remains confidential and they are not supposed to give that information to anyone else. So I think it's always good to sign a three-way agreement.
Right. And do you also find that suppliers generally are respectful of the agreements, of the NNN agreements, or is it more of just a formality that they do? What do you think? Or does it just depend on the supplier?
I don't think so. We are working with a set of suppliers who are working with us confidentially on any of the product for that matter. This is a document which we are signing because the buyer is very concerned about their product, that the similar product somebody else is not doing in the market, or they are not giving or showing that design in the market, and it's not visible to anyone else too. But yeah, it's always good to get that signed, and our vendors are taking that not for granted, but then they are keeping the product as very confidential.
Right.
Yes.
What do you find, Rajat?
Like it is, I think it's a must because it also gives suppliers some responsibility, while they take some design or something into development. It gives them some, sort of binding that they are not allowed to, to show to the other customers just like that. Might be they can do it after 6 months or whatever, but at the time of signing contract, they also get bind. Till the order is executed, they also bind in terms of the design development things. So it's good, and we do that at the time of the before the execution of the order or before the execution of the design. Because in past we had some customers, they asked us to sign the and then initial itself, and they later the development doesn't start it. So now we ask them, once the development gets start, then only we sign the NN thing.
Okay.
This is how we are doing it currently.
Right. And also, just for everyone's reference, we do have an NNN template in the Facebook group. So just go inside of the group and search for NNN. You should have a template that has been reviewed by a lawyer in India. So if you want to use that, go ahead and use it, download it, and then just enter your specific information. So I don't see any questions from anybody here. There are so many people watching, but guys, where are your questions? there are usually so many questions in the group and so many issues that people face, but yeah, we don't have any questions from anyone today. So yeah, let's keep moving. So let's cover the last one.
Yeah. Okay. Look, in the samples, and I think probably this doesn't apply so much if you're dealing with a sourcing agent, because they may go to a couple of different suppliers because they're on the ground and do samples. But I've had people come to me and say, "Oh, I'm getting samples from 4 different suppliers," and I go, "What?" Because what's going to happen is they're going to get 4 things made. They're going to pay probably, well, we know usually $150 or something to get that posted 4 times. And at the moment that price is quite high. But then what do you do then? You get it and they all need a tweak. So do you go back and tweak 4? And how long does this go on? And I think, to me, if you're going personally to a supplier, you should really hone in on, I think 1 is enough, and work with that supplier on the sample to keep improving it. Because if you've got 4 on the go at once, you're just going to get yourself in so many knots and spend a fortune with postage of samples back and forwards, to America, Australia, or, Europe, wherever it is, because it's not a cheap exercise. I mean, it's a little bit different when the sourcing agents are on the ground and they can sort of do that a little bit differently. But I think if you're personally doing it, and you're really wasting the supplier's time, because you're not going to order 4. And to me, there is a lot of time. I mean, a supplier's not just sitting and people say to me, "Oh, it's going to take 2 weeks to get my sample." But I mean, people forget that that supplier's probably got, 100 other people all he's dealing with at the same time. So they're not just sitting back in their desk waiting for you to loll up with your little, I want to make this bowl, and they're going to stop production and do a sample and put it in the post the next day. So, I mean, I think, it's a time factor. So I think if you can get one supplier and build a relationship, if you're dealing with a supplier, it's a bit like taking your sourcing agent, that's your relationship. If you choose to go down the supplier route, you need to get a really good relationship with one supplier. You can't work with four and just keep juggling, because you're just getting yourself, and you'll end up with something you don't want, because you're going to forget which bloke sent the sample in the end, because you're going to have so many things going on. And they're never going to be four identical things, because each factory here, we're talking India, it's all handmade. So they're all making it in their own style. So it might have a slightly different style. So I think it's working with each supplier and building that relationship, not just wasting four suppliers' time and spending a fortune yourself on samples being sent back and forwards. Because if you do it 3 times, you could be up for, well over, well, at the moment, we know we've got posted in the group how somebody's been charged like $300 odd to get a sample sent out here. So, if you're doing that 3 or 4 times, then you're doing it twice or 3 times to get it right. I mean, wow, that's a lot of money down the drain and a lot of time for everyone. So I think people just, choose a supplier that you've either seen their work on our group, because hopefully if you're going to a supplier, it's someone you've seen through our one of our vetted suppliers, and you can see what they make. And if that's the sort of thing the look you want, go down that track and work with that supplier. They're really nice, easy to work with. I find that the Indian suppliers are much better to work with. It's so simple. They communicate better, and you can get a good relationship and get yourself a good product. But it's the time factor. You've got to work on that, or you've got to go to one of these people and get them to do all that work for you. One or the other.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that. People spend so much time, and sampling is not straightforward. I mean, in India, I think the sampling takes even longer because it's handmade and they have to develop the sample from scratch. And right, what do you guys think about sampling, Rajat and Ajit? What are the issues you see with sampling?
Like sample usually take time and development cost. Sometimes we need to start from the scratch with the design. If you need to open a die or something like that, sometimes mold is required in terms of some wooden or metal or different sort of products, the metal one. So sometimes take time. Usually depending on the product, the kind of category. Usually from week to 3 weeks time it takes, depending if you need to open a mold or not. And of course, the development cost is required, because if it's a regular product to a customer, to a supplier, then we may ask for a C sample. Only the courier cost will be done. But if we need to open a design, we need to open a mold, we have to do all the work from scratch, then of course the development cost will be there. And it takes time. It takes 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the product it is. And we ask our customers to pay for that. We usually ask 2 times of the product cost. But sometimes the dyeing cost is there, which is very, very expensive. Sometimes $100 or $200, depending on the dye cost, that need to be added.
But for samples, you don't get the dye done, do you? I mean,
Depending on
yes, of course, certain things.
you do.
It depends on the product, Megla. It would actually depend on the product. If it is some metal product and it cannot be done without the mold, then we have to go in for the mold. And the mold cost can be up to $200 to $250. It depends on the product and the size of it. So sometimes it requires maybe 1 mold or 2 mold. Depending on that, the die cost is given and shared. So once agreed upon, then only we process the goods. All the samples are not possible to be made by hand.
Right.
And it's different thing for different product categories. Like for garment, if you go for garment, then fabric minimums will be there, and to procure that fabric for sampling is the big thing. To get that fabric dyed or get that fabric printed, it involves cost. Everything involves cost, lot of cost at factories and as well. So we as well as buyer, everybody needs to be aware of those costs and pay to the supplier the sampling charges accordingly. So we minimize those costs, but actual cost of development for sample is 4 to 5 times of the actual of product. But generally factories ask for 2 times of sampling cost.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a lot of factories, just not charge for samples at all, but I feel that they should. I mean, buyers should pay for samples and, of
Sometimes
course, the shipping as
there
well.
are
And
two
then
things.
maybe,
See,
yeah,
if the sample are get made of running fabrics or running wood samples, wood product sample. So if there are a lot of woods in the factory and only handcrafting needs to be there, then they will not charge for the sample. They will get the raw material in the factory and they will make that. But if there's a new wood for which the sample need to be made, then they will have to buy that new wood from the market and get the sample made. So these things also should be considered while
And
doing
most of the
this.
time, supplier, reverse the sampling charge.
Yeah,
yeah,
once the order is confirmed,
yeah. Once the order is confirmed, then they will just reverse.
they adjust the
Yeah.
sampling charge. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the benefit with going to one supplier. If you go and get 4 samples, you're going to end up definitely paying for 3. You might get the one you go with credited off your account. I mean, I've heard that a lot of people I've dealt with, that's happened to them, that they haven't actually paid for the sample. If they've placed the order, they've just paid for the shipping. But I think if you start spreading around, just going to every supplier, getting samples and wasting their time, it's going to cost you a fortune because you're not going to be able to get a credit. You're going to be paying for every sample. And I think it's unfair that people expect a supplier just to keep making samples for nothing. If you're not going to do the deal with them, I think you should be paying for it. Their time's money as well.
Right. So Jackie's saying the content is so good that all the questions have been answered.
Thanks, Jackie.
Okay, Richard has a question. So I'm interested to get thoughts on how we can speed up the process from sample through to the final product delivery. Yeah, what suggestions do you have, Rajat and Kumud, for speeding up the process?
The main thing from the buyer's end or purchases end is to be of the complete understanding of the product that they want to be delivered. That will speed up the process a lot. If we get a complete information what product they want, we will go to the right supplier, and the sample timing will be very less, and production time can be even better in that case.
Right. So
See, that's what we talked in the beginning.
Clarity of thought from everybody's end.
Right.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
that's what we talked in the
Yes.
beginning, that the complete tech pack with all the information, the requirements and what they're looking for, if it comes in the first mail itself and their product expectations, then definitely we can work on that from the beginning itself. So that reduces our sampling time, and
Yeah.
if they're looking at particular shipping date as well, we can work backwards and work on the product, whether we need to ship it as a pre-production sample itself, and we take the owner, show the buyer on virtual call how the sample looks like, and take the onus on that and send the sample as a pre-production sample itself. So there we can reduce our sampling lead time, can go into our production lead time. That way we can reduce our sampling lead time also.
Yeah.
So
And
that's always
I will like to add one thing, that first time buyers from India, and if a buyer is already buying from China or any other, they will have completely different experience, because in China production facility is running continuously, so they just need to go and pick the product and they buy it. So that will be different. And in India, a product is need to be made complete. A process of making the product is completely different. You go and select a sample, then they will start producing it. They don't keep their stock making a product here. So that two experience will be different, and that needs to be considered in buyer's mind also. That while we are going to purchase from India, the product will be made fresh, not a continuous line production is there of
Yeah,
a
so
separate product.
they will make the sample from scratch for you, so that might increase
And
the
production also.
time. Yeah, but it also depends on the product, right? So for example, if it's
Yeah,
something like a
that's
bag,
right.
will be quicker than compared to maybe a wooden product or something where the mold needs to be made.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And how
I think
complex your
2
order
3
is.
weeks, as Rajat said previously, it's about 2 to 3 weeks time for sampling. So if we want to cut down that put that into our production. We can produce the pre-production sample in the first run itself. So we can have a virtual call, list all the product, all the call outs of the product, and go ahead from there. So that can always be done.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't hear Kumud very clearly. Was it just me or
Yeah,
Mark?
no, it's breaking up.
It's breaking up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take one more question from Konark. So Konark, yeah, it's. I think it's okay now. So Konark is saying, what legal actions can be taken if the contract isn't abided, both from a buyer and seller perspective? So let's talk about this. I think this is super important. So let's say that a contract has been signed between the buyer and seller, and the let's say, for example, the seller does not ship the product on time or whatever, maybe the quality is not good. So what legal recourse, or what recourse does a buyer have in that situation? Kumud, do you want to go first? Have you come across such situations?
No, I haven't. Maybe Rajat can guide here.
Rajat, how about you?
Yeah, we will tell you a situation. We have made a contract with a buyer in US, and he deposited advance here. So that supplier was not able to deliver the product. It's still not delivered. So we on behalf of that buyer filed a legal complaint with our port authorities, and we filed a complaint at the Mumbai port also, so that supplier is not able to export again till he abides by that contract. The advance amount should be returned to the buyer. All he abides by the content of that contract.
Detailed application to the ECPH authorities,
EPCH, and every
fair trade policies,
export
organization, along with the local police authority and the other port authorities need to be done. Strict action need to be taken, because if someone want to really recover his or her money, a strong action need to be taken.
Yeah. So I think the first recourse. Yeah. The first recourse would be, you can try to mediate. So maybe you can find somebody in India, another supplier or a sourcing agent. So try to do some mediation, especially if you know who the supplier is. I mean, sometimes if it's a scam or something, then it's a different situation. You can't find the person at all. But yes, I think mediation is the first thing. Then if they are a member of EPCH, which is Export Promotion Council for Handicrafts, then EPCH does have a specific email address and a person who manages disputes, so you can reach out to them if there is a dispute. But if the supplier is not a member of EPCH or any other organization, then it becomes difficult for the organization to intervene. But then there
is one thing, the IC code is there. With the IC code, they can go to the government of Indian authorities and customs.
Yeah.
With that.
Another thing that you could do is, I think there's like in every country's Indian High Commission, there is a complaint cell or a department that manages such issues. So for example, if you're in the US and you can go to the US to the Indian embassy in the US and try to file a complaint over there and see if they can help resolve the issue as well. And then legal action. So Ajit, what about, is it easy for a buyer who's overseas to,
it's not really easy. They have to take some help from the local agent or some other supplier of their own. Some local person can only take it, in a better way.
It's better to go through an organization. Like EPCH, EEPC, and other things. The body organizing the fair, where they are connected. So it's not knowing about the supplier only. You should know about the organization where these suppliers are connected also, are members of those organizations. Then only you start with the production or ordering process with them.
Right.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the point that we say, you should be careful. Either take one of our vetted suppliers, go through someone who's in EPCH, or go to a sourcing agent. If you just go off willy-nilly and choose someone that you can't check and you haven't checked, it becomes really a problem, because it's like trying to sue someone in China or India. It's very difficult to try and do any legal process without, spending a fortune and flying to another country. I just think, let the buyer beware, but you should be more careful when you're selecting your supplier. And if you find a supplier that you really want to use, maybe contact one of the sourcing agents, contact the group and just say, does anyone know anything about these people, or check with EPCH. Kev's back. Go.
Yeah. Kev, can you hear us? No. Kev, you need a new computer. You need a new computer, Kev. And Kumud's out now.
Yeah, I think so.
Kumud's having issues too.
I was just going to say, like, you could always go to RSJ or use a company like that to do an audit. You can always pay someone to do an audit to find out what you want to know about that certain factory, or should I, shouldn't I? Because doing an audit will give you a clear picture to move forward.
Exactly. But I think you're right. I mean, it really comes down to choosing the right supplier and doing a lot of your work upfront to avoid issues later on. So we got one more question from Adrian. How multiple sample iterations can be managed effectively since the buyer cannot feel and touch the products right? So how do you guys manage this? I mean, from my perspective, I would, as much as possible, see videos of the sample in progress. And then if I'm happy with the videos that I see, then I would ask the supplier to send over, a sample. But how do you deal with such issues? Rajat? Ajit?
Like same thing, like we usually go with audio, like the video session of the supplier, how they are doing it. We'll ask picture from video from various angles. Sometimes the pictures doesn't look nice, because of daylight, or they take it from the showroom perspective. So we ask them picture from different light source, from the outside also, in a daylight, and inside also. And if there's a color Pantone we have given to match, we ask picture of that as well. And we ask them to put a measurement tape and give us the measurement things from that perspective. And we even ask them to give a 1 minute video also of the product. So this is how we do.
Complete physical property of samples are communicated to the buyer so that they can feel the physical property. But ethical property that buyer have in mind, they can feel only when they receive the samples. But we can let them the information of physical properties of samples, of different samples, many samples.
Yeah, that's a great point. So once you know the physical properties, and then once you're happy with all of that, then a lot of the iterations can be done before the samples are actually shipped out to the buyer. So we can make changes as much as possible.
That's why we have documented that product evaluation thing, where we give a photograph and height, weight, width, everything, all the physical properties and color differentiation, our views on those samples.
What callouts, we also give the callouts as well. Like what need to be changed, what need to be added to make the product looks more enhanced the product.
Okay, cool. Okay, any last questions? Let's start wrapping up. We've been going for almost 1.5 hours here. So we'll start wrapping up. So let's just go around the table and everybody can give their final comments and maybe one really important tip or advice that you want to give buyers. So let's start with you, Rajat and Ajit. What is the one most important tip or advice that you have for buyers?
Sure. Like recently, like after discussing with many customers, we face this issue very widely, that they want to do a test order of 200 pieces, 300 pieces, or 500 pieces. But when they calculate the shipping cost in last, it comes out very high. Then they drop their idea. So if they are looking for a test order of 200, 300 pieces, they should almost same time look at the shipping cost as well. Because shipping cost to US is certain, $7,000 to $1,000, which is minimum depending on the size of the shipment. These need to be taken care of. If they come up across at this last stage, then the idea of doing all the exercise with the sourcing agent or with the supplier go waste. Sometimes buyers do also have their own, budget. They do not want to cross that. So shipping cost initial has to be done along with production.
Shipping and storage cost around need to be taken care of, studied as well first.
This is important point which we come across after discussing with so many customers.
Right. So shipping and storage costs need to be determined, or at least get an estimate of the cost. And in order to get, I think the problem is that, buyers want to get a shipping estimate, but then the suppliers don't give the dimensions of the boxes or whatever, at the initial stage.
See, sometimes
right,
a rough idea will also work.
Rough idea will work.
See, because certain costs are fixed. When you talk about shipping costs from India to US by sea, the custom cost at both the ends are fixed. The logistics costs are fixed. It's only the CBM cost of the sea freight does vary, which will not be a big vary. Like if supplier give some rough idea also, that they can also make it out. $100 here, there, that's it. Not too much.
And just something that I try and sort of say to a lot of people who come to me, if they only want to do 200 because they're not sure of the product, maybe find a second product and do another test sample of 200 or even 3 different products that they like, because the shipping cost to ship 600 really in relativity is no different, or maybe $100 or something, than shipping 200, and you're going to be able to test 3 products. Okay, you've got a little bit of cash outlay, but you're going to be able to hopefully get 1 good product. You might get 3 winners out of those 3, but instead of wasting all that money, because I know people who have spent $2,000 plus sending 200 items over to America, and to me that is just ridiculous, whereas you could have sent 3 different products and had a go at 3 products. So you've got to weigh up the costs, because obviously you've got some images and things to do, but I think to me, doing 200, just 1 shipment of 200 is so silly, because even if you sell out, what are you going to do then? You're going to wait another 4 or 5 months to send over another 200. You've got to bite the bullet. I think if you're going into this, you've got to have a little bit more confidence and be prepared. You can't open a Maya store or a houseware shop with 200 things in the middle of the shop. You've got to outlay a little bit more money. You're going into a business here. It's not, and I think a lot of people try and treat this as just a little bit of a hobby. Going into Amazon is not a hobby. There's so many costs involved. It's a business, and you should be a business-minded person from the start and be prepared to spend a little bit more money and take a little bit of risk, because you are taking a risk. Once you sign up for Amazon, there is risk involved, and I think that's where people get confused. There's people here who just think, oh, I've seen this ad and I can make all this money and give up my day job in 3 months' time, ha, 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 and I'm going to be, loaded, and these graphs on the, Facebook pages that they make $50,000 in their first month. Hello. That's like winning Tats Lotto. So I think people need to treat this as a business, not as a game. You're not playing. It's not a hobby. It's either a business. This isn't a hobby for anybody. It's a business. So I think that's where a lot of people need to bite the bullet and, get a few more products. That's my take.
Definitely, that's great advice. And I just want to also point out that, if people want advice, book a session with Marg. I mean, she's really good with, helping people select products, or if you have any questions about expenses or anything else, just talk to somebody. Marg is a great person. I mean, she's got a lot of experience. She does coaching sessions as well. So book a call with her or anybody else, you just get some advice. Okay, Kumud, what advice do you have for buyers?
Rather, I would think that, if the first mail is very quiet and clear, we don't need any other information from the buyer. I think that's what we need. Just a starting point has to be very, very clear, and we can offer great services there.
Yeah, great advice. Kevin, your turn.
Same track as Marg. If you sort of go in with a clear mind, it's a business. There's plenty of opportunity in India where you can actually, spend a dollar value but get a variety of different products to try if it's just a trial sort of thing. And there's many opportunities that can be had there. And people have just got to sort of, like Mark said, treat it like a real business. It's not a part-time hobby sort of thing. And go in there with a clear communication for all your requirements, which will speed up the process. A lot of people do lose a lot of time because they don't go in there with a clear requirement what they want, and they lose a lot of time. And pitches going backwards and forwards, and I've heard people, "I'll come back to you next week," and another week's gone by, and then
Oops.
He's dropped it. I can tell you what it is. I can hear it.
I think it's happening with everyone today.
Yeah, today's not a good tech day. The tech gods are not happy today.
I'm back. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're back
Missed
now.
the end of it.
Well, Duncan is in great content.
It's like sort of playing golf. It's either good or bad.
Yeah, Duncan, we're trying to help you. I think we might have some good news for you. So cool. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kumud, Ajit, and Rajat, for your time today and for sharing a lot of good information. So, yeah, guys watching, their email addresses are right here. If you do require services, they are in our group. Reach out to them on Messenger or send them an email. They're really good to work with. And a lot of sellers in our group have worked with both Rajat, Ajit, and Kumud, and they have nothing but great things to say. So definitely reach out to them if you have any questions. Okay, so I think with that we come to the close, to the end of this webinar, and we will see you all next week, hopefully on Wednesday.
We'll try.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you again.
All right, thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.
Good to see you again. Stay safe.